Are we live now? And is Tina on? Can where's Brian? Can you text her? Or your texter? Okay. All right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order with a pledge of allegiance. That must be.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm gonna welcome everybody. I will do audience introductions. Oh, go Charlie, go.
Cindy Matthews, central office.
Heidi Broomholm, I'm a teacher at the high school, and I was also part of the strategic planning committee.
Jana Richardson, I'm a parent in the district and a member of the strategic planning committee.
Kelly Porter, hopefully the next all-dead teacher.
Heidi Connolly, director of special services.
Brian Keene, director of technology.
Gina Clucci, director of nutrition.
Hi, I'm Lisa Keim, and I'm here tonight in my role as state senator, but also a resident of Dixfield.
Jessica Swan, school psychologist and ESSA coordinator.
Julie Couture, community member, DES teacher.
Ella Couture, co-advisor of the middle school civil rights team.
Diane Gallagher, part of the Civil Rights Committee, and also educator and advocate for SAPPers, and a Peru resident.
Katie Chickwin, DES teacher and DES civil rights team advisor.
Danielle Williams, community member and co-advisor of the middle school civil rights team.
Erin Peters, resident of Canton and parent of 2 kiddos at DES.
Jay Nicholson, bus driver.
Charlie Swan, principal at DES.
Okay, since Carl is gonna go online, will that make us good? While he goes online, I'm gonna have Lisa Keim come up. She's gonna do a presentation.
Put this down a little bit. So good evening. Thank you all for letting me join you this evening and then also be first because I have another presentation to go make at another school. And as many of you know, I represent this area in the Maine Senate and I have done so for 8 years. And one of the real honors of my job is to recognize great things in the communities, which is what I'm doing tonight. And as I'm sure all of you know already, Mr. Swan was named the National Distinguished Principal for 2024 by Maine's National Association of Elementary School Principals. He was chosen out of 700 elementary school principals in the state, and that means he's one of the best in the United States. And I'm going to read the sentiment, but before I do, my first time meeting with Charlie, with Mr. Swan, was when he was at the high school and bringing my student in for the first time as a 9th grader because we were homeschooling up until then. And I was nervous, and so nervous. My son wasn't nervous. But Charlie was so warm and welcoming, and he reached out to me and talked with me about how my son was doing, and of course gave me a lot of comfort as I was sending my son off into school. And so when I think about that, even though that was a high school experience, I was that new parent with the with a child and feeling sort of nervous. And so I know why Charlie has been given this award because he cares about children. He cares about their families, and it's been obvious to me since I first knew him. So I am so honored to be here tonight to read this and to be part of recognizing Charlie a little bit more. I should call you Principal Swan, I'm sure, but so I'll read the sentiment. State of Maine, be it known to all that we, the members of the Senate and House of Representatives, join in recognizing Charles Swan of Dixfield, principal of Dirigo Elementary School, who was named National Distinguished Principal for 2024 by Maine's National Association of Elementary Principals. We extend our congratulations and best wishes, and be it ordered that this official expression of sentiment be sent forthwith on behalf of the 131st Legislature and the people of the state of Maine. Thank you so much. Thank you for your work. So, Mr. Swan is now permanently in state history.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, is Carl on yet? Okay, so till Carl. Let me text him. Oh, that's true. He says he's dirty. That's what he's. Okay. All right, while he's texting me, I'll get an answer. Okay, yep. I'm gonna do public comment right now. This is the time the public can make a comment. Oh, if anyone online or in, any public comment? Account struggling, he said. All right. Yeah, go with communications.
There are no new communications.
You made it up. Okay, since Bruce is on, I'm gonna go to the Region 9 update. Bruce, you gotta tell me go. Good. Bruce, can you hear me?
Yeah, good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, I'll start out by saying, number one, I wasn't at the last Region 9 meeting, but I do have the minutes from the meeting. It was kind of it was more of a going through some of the new business that they had. There was a lot of articles that were involved to pass for new people and upgrades for salaries and so forth. I'm not going to read down through them, but most of the meeting was spent doing that. And have been on talking about some of the upgrades going on with the school. I don't know how much they got into it on the meeting with it, but just to give you a highlight, even may not have been on the meeting, but we have broken ground on our new welding lab. I don't know if anyone has driven by, they see what's going on that, as well as we're moving forward, trying to see what's going to occur on our culinary arts grant that we also received as well. So that's moving forward. So the grant part of it, of the project, is moving forward. Again, I'm not sure how much they covered on this on the in the meeting. They didn't really do too much. They just more or less gave me a thing that they talked about the greenhouse and they talked about the welding lab, but they didn't say too much details on it. It looked, by the looks of it, of what I got for minutes, it was kind of a short, sweet meeting. The other thing that's trying to figure out is FEMA is being involved. They've been contacting them each time to see whether their insurance is going to help with some of the damage that occurred to some of our parking lots and some of our grounds from the flooding that occurred and some of the torrential rains that had occurred, even though the building, of course, did not flood, but all the torrential rains created some potholes and stuff in some areas called sinkholes. So they're dealing with that. As far as I can see so far, as of the last time that I reported out to you, our numbers were quite strong for this following year. I don't have any new numbers as they did not present anything to me. But so far, unless something has changed, we're looking pretty strong for the upcoming year. Graduation is coming up as well as everyone else's. So far, everything is looking good with Region 9. Any questions?
Any questions for Bruce? Seeing none. Thank you very much, Bruce.
You're welcome.
Okay, while Carl is having technical difficulties and Brian is fixing it, I'm going to start with the overview of Title I. Jessica and Charlie Swan. Oh, is she going to do it? Your support sitting there. Okay. Thank
Sure. I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
Good. Good, Jared?
Tina, can you see that?
No, I can't see anything. It's just circling.
Okay. Can you see it now, Tina?
Yeah, yep, I can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. So I'm Jessica Swan. Part of my job as prevention intervention coordinator or specialist is to coordinate Title I services. So I'm here to give you an overview of what Title I is and what we do. So the purpose is to inform parents, family members, and any stakeholders about the Title I program and its requirements. What is Title I? It is the oldest and largest federally funded program, falls under the ESEA ESSA grant. And this is given to schools who have a high number of low-income students that might be at risk in academics, so that it can help increase their academic achievement. So schools qualify by having at least 40% eligible for free and reduced lunch. The money that is allotted, or how much money is allotted, has a lot to do with, or depends a lot on the census data, which was new to me. But talking to our area rep, he gave me a lot of information on that part. And so the census data is related to some possible areas of increasing revenue. So if you want more information on that, I can provide that. The purpose of Title I. Equity is an important word in the purpose of Title I. It is to provide equal opportunity for all students to receive help if they become at risk academically. The goal is to close academic gaps for students who are falling behind. Several things we do to provide equity and ensure equity. We have systematic, we are working in the process of systematizing a process for referral and identification. Some of these processes include universal screening 3 times a year. That helps us to identify students who are at risk and then identify them when they fall at risk, because they may not be at risk at the beginning of the year, but maybe at the end of the year they are. Who receives Title I services? Although our qualification and funding depend on poverty rate, students do not have to meet the poverty rate to get Title I services. Any student, once we are designated a Title I school, and because we're school-wide designated instead of targeted designated, that means any student in the school should have equal opportunity to access those services when they fall at risk. They don't have to meet the poverty level. And it is dependent on academic achievement. So Title I funds can be used in several ways. Because we're school-wide, we can use funding that will help general education students. We can also use funding to help students who we target who are at risk. So we spend money on professional development for gen ed teachers and for Title I teachers. We spend money to reduce classroom sizes. The funding that we have, we also use to provide supplemental instruction and materials for any practices that help us to identify and provide interventions for students that work. One of our main goals is to improve parent communication and involvement. And then the summer camp that is offered at DES is also funded through Title I. More specifically, much of our Title I funding is used to provide staff positions. So it funds 10 of our staff positions, 1 classroom teacher, 2 education technicians in pre-K, and then the coordinator and 6 Title I staff. So these are used to reduce classroom sizes and to provide staffing that will help provide supplemental intervention. This is our Title I staff from this year. We had 6 staff members, very lucky, from various backgrounds and with different amounts of experience. So by the numbers, we have 6 staff members. Their caseloads, they each had a caseload of about 20 this year. 98 students received Title I reading services. 36 received Title I math services. Some of those overlapped. Some students received both reading and math. We had 52 students who attended summer camp last year, and 68 staff that Title I helps fund for summer camp. Our sessions are typically 30 minutes, 4 days a week, and some students receive 2 30-minute sessions. So one of our big goals was family engagement and communication. We offer several opportunities to communicate with parents or for parents to come meet us. These occur at the beginning, middle, and end of the year in various capacities. So some of these are meetings that are organized to provide them information. Some of them are meetings organized so that they can see the faces of the people who are working with their students. And some of them are open throughout the year. Some steps that have been taken for parent communication. We are required to have parents sign a compact. This compact includes what we agree to do, what the school or the Title I teachers agree to do, what the student is requested to do, and what the parents are requested to do in order for their child to succeed in Title I. When they are identified, we send intake letters informing the parent that they are receiving Title I services. We send progress reports home 3 times a year. And then if they exit Title I for various reasons, they receive an exit letter that says that they are no longer receiving Title I services and where they're going. And then the organized activities through the school. And we've also started a Facebook page for parents so that we can put out information about how they can help students at home. We have a Remind app so parents can reach us via text. And then we, just this year, created a parent survey to get some feedback from them. So one of the questions on the parent survey was, how satisfied are you with the quality of services that your child received? And the answers were mostly satisfied and very satisfied. So can we increase funding through Title I? Yes, we can. These are 2 ways. One, increasing awareness and encouraging families that are qualified to complete what's called the American Community Survey. This was new to me. This was advice given to me by our area rep who said, if you want to increase funding through Title I funds, here's what you do. Number 2 is increasing the number of families that complete the free reduced lunch forms. Those are done in the fall, and due date is, I think, October, so fairly early. The effect of the American Community Survey, ACS. So in 2022, RSU 56 lost some funding because, this is what I was told by the state, the census poverty required to receive funding in a certain area was needed to be 20% or higher. In 2022, ours was 16.11%. So we did not qualify for that funding anymore. And this is based on information, poverty information from the ACS. That's a quick overview of Title I. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them at this time.
Go ahead, Brad.
I'll spare you. Is the school system required to take Title I funding?
I'm sorry?
Can we deny Title I funding? Can we not opt into it?
I suppose.
We could opt out of it, but it is a lot of money and it gets a lot of staffing for us.
I don't disagree with that. It seems to me that having a lower poverty number probably is a positive thing. We wouldn't want to look more poor or be more poor. The community survey is something that's been going on forever. I work the census, super familiar with it. It is how government spreads money. It doesn't mean that you'll directly get money if everybody fills it out, but I guess the bigger question I have, and I suspect that my youngest son probably received Title I services, and I just didn't look at it this way. There's a 30-minute session a week, and some students, I would imagine, based on need, get 2 30-minute sessions. Is this additional tutoring?
It's in addition to core instruction, yes.
So if they're struggling in one area, they would get additional tutoring based on whatever that issue is.
Correct.
My last question is, does Title I funding come with strings attached? And what I mean by that, is there a specific curriculum or information that has to be conveyed to students because we take the funding? Beyond just Johnny is struggling in math and needs to understand, division better. Is there any material that we are required to bring on and communicate to students and teachers?
It does not designate specific programs that we need to use.
No specific information. There is no additional principles that they have to learn. There's nothing like that.
No.
Okay, thank
The
you.
requirements are that we need to inform parents and have a meeting, that we have a committee that meets regularly and talks about how we're spending the money. I mean, there are some requirements, but none of them specify what programs we need to use.
So is it fair to say that more accurately, it really is, if Johnny and Mary need additional instruction, there are resources provided to have the teachers available and the time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
Do you need to feedback anything to the federal government?
Yes, we have what's called a performance report that's due every spring, and we have to provide some information to the grant.
And that's just performance?
Yes, it's really, we have to set some goals, and so we inform them whether we met those goals or not. So for our district, we have 3 goals. One is improve academic achievement, improve parent communication or parent engagement, and to help with social emotional learning. So helping kids adjust and with their emotions and behavior.
Tina?
Yes, hi. So I have a couple questions. My first one is, it is my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're identifying kids that need to be screened or to look at for Title I service solely based on the standardized testing. Is that correct or incorrect?
Ideally, there are instruments that are designed to screen all students to be used to determine which students are at risk. And then there are instruments that are designed to measure achievement at the end of the instruction. So ideally, we'd be using these screeners to identify these students. So in K through 2, we have a screener called MAP Fluency. It measures 3 areas that are identified as key to reading: decoding, language, and phonological awareness.
So is that given in addition to the standardized test?
This year, yes.
Okay. And then my next question is, the more children you enroll into your program, the more funding you're receiving. Is that correct?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, how so? Explain.
So the number of students that we serve does not go into the equation for how much funding we get. What the funding that we get is determined by the ACS information. 75% of it is the ACS information. The other one is free reduced lunch, I believe.
Okay.
We have increased the number of staff that we use in Title I. So we've just reallocated the money to increase the staff because we have a very robust core curriculum that we're implementing. And so teachers in the process of implementing that core curriculum needed some help reaching the kids and providing services for kids that needed additional help. So we expanded the role of Title I this year for that.
Okay, and how in conjunction are you with the teachers? I'm just in one specific opinion, just because I've seen it on my end, but where you may have thought a student needed Title I and the teacher disagreed with that particular subject. So how do you work through that or decide if that is really a true need for that student?
Well, we're trying to do several things. One, we definitely want to get teacher feedback. They see the students, they work with the students in the classroom, they have that experience. But we also want to have some measures that tell us key pivotal areas. For example, in reading, there are pivotal areas that open doors to later skills. So we really want to look at those at different times in the child's reading development and make sure that those are on par to where they need to be. And if not, we want to intervene early so that we prevent later problems.
Interesting. Okay.
You all set, Tina?
I believe so. Thank you.
Okay. Brad?
Thank you so far. You probably haven't been asked this many questions about Title I, I would imagine.
I don't mind.
It's all good to learn about it. To Kathleen's point, there's information that you have to report back, and that made me think. First question is can we as board members, get copies of what questions are asked by the teachers and demanded by the program?
Yes. Yeah.
Are we going to be able to roughly understand what's being asked? Is it
I mean, they ask us like our free reduced numbers, our demographic information, how many kids we have in certain demographics.
So demographic information, is that broken down by how many boys and girls, or is it what roughly, without going, you don't have to give the whole dissertation on it, but what roughly is asked?
It's usually race, ethnicity, because historically, minority races are, there's a higher percentage of minority races that fall below criteria in academics. So I think they want to measure, what does our school look like in that way?
Is there a focus on gender-based questions?
No.
Beyond boy, girl?
No.
Okay. And number of us have asked questions about social emotional learning in the school. And my understanding is there's no curriculum specifically around it. How does your statement about social emotional learning, how is that tied to this? What information are we providing? What's being brought in for information that is focused on social emotional learning?
Yeah. So through research, we know that a child's emotional balance has a lot to do with whether they're open to instruction or not. So one of our goals is to provide universal supports in the classroom, in the cafeteria, in the playground that will help kids manage themselves and their emotions so that they can direct their attention and focus to the teacher when they're trying to be instructed in these academic areas. So we want to measure, we want to get an idea of how our students are in that area, and then whether we call them 10-minute tips are helping with that. So we know a lot of our kids are anxious. Anxiety increased a lot through COVID. And so we taught our teachers a couple of interventions like the feelings thermometer. How big are your feelings if they're upset, so that they can figure out how to get themselves back to baseline, a measure of emotion where they're available to learn. We taught them how to do, breathing exercises. Breathe in 4, breathe out 6, counting or walking around their desk to self-manage their emotions or calm themselves down when they've had recess or PE and their heart rates are going and they need to come back, and we're asking them to use an area of their brain that is important for learning.
So is this focus on these techniques for emotional management? Is it focused on the children that struggle with it, or is it across the board?
Everyone. Because they'll help all kids. All kids need to learn how to self-manage. All kids need to know how to be self-aware and go, oh, I'm really amped up right now. I'm not available to learn.
The last thing I'll ask is this something that is as needed, or is it at them all day long?
No, it's as needed. It may be between key moments, like coming in from recess. Those times when all kids or a lot of kids are needing.
So when
to
the
kind of
teacher's
gather
flashing the
themselves.
lights in the room, that's how they did it when I was a kid. Like, shut up, and sit down.
Yeah.
It's not quite the same. Okay. Thank you. You've been a trooper.
Any other, I have a couple. I forgot. What was the compact? It's been a lot of years.
It's a piece of paper that tells that states, as parents, this is what we're going to do to help our students be successful in Title I. The student has a section that we go over with them and they sign it. This is what I'm going to do to help myself be successful. And then our teachers, our Title I instructors have a section that says, this is what I'm going to do to help this child be successful. And everybody signs it and we gather it together, make sure that everybody understands what their part is.
Okay. Now, the survey you mentioned, that's new or not new?
Because one of our parent goals was that we had several parent goals, so we needed a way to measure those parent goals. So we used the survey this year to do that. Our goals in previous years had been to increase the number of parents that participated in certain things. This year, we wanted to increase the knowledge that parents had about Title I. So we asked them some questions about that, increase the knowledge of parents on strategies they can use to help their child when they're at home, and then also increase the satisfaction that they had in the program as a whole.
Okay, now the other survey for money, the American
Community Survey.
Is that new?
That is, as Brad said, it's part of the
census.
it's part of the
That's another
census.
fancy name for the census.
The census is once every 10 years. This one is monthly. Random households in the community are sent this survey and it asks about transportation, income, all these different questions. And based on that information, our community gets a chunk of like $600 billion that are available for communities, not just for schools, but for hospitals, roads. I mean, it would benefit the whole community to increase awareness and have more people fill it
So
out.
how would the public, and we know that it wasn't something that you would ignore?
Well, this is what I asked. This is what I asked Daniel Weeks, who is our area rep. He said, one is it would help to have a work group that was focused on helping to increase awareness and making some plans for doing that, using multiple modalities to get information across about this survey and the importance of this survey, to do it multiple times, not just one time, but send out this information multiple times. So he gave me a list of recommendations for how to increase awareness and increase the number of people filling out these surveys. And then he gave me a whole bunch of websites that has materials to do this.
Can I have a couple of thoughts? And I'm not pretending to come from a place of expertise, but she's right. The community survey is monthly. It happens all the time. In my experience, and I literally just talked to someone who does this real heavy, the community survey. People in general are pretty leery about doing it because they don't know about it. They don't know about it.
I didn't know about it.
It's for some, it's the federal government coming in and asking me questions like, why are you asking me? There's not a lot of discussion about the value it brings. It's a real big uphill climb, like a real big uphill climb. And in fact, the gal that I was talking about, who also does work for CMS Medicare, She said that people are harassed pretty heavy about it and told that they'll go to jail if they don't fill it out. And I know that sounds nuts.
It is
Having worked the
legally
census-
required if you get it to fill it out.
It is, so
Yeah.
it's not law. I'm sure of that. The census is law. You have to say how many people live there, but one of my jobs was to go visit the person the fourth time, fifth time, sixth time. So I would say if you want to pass something on to your rep that may be helpful, I think the communication, and I don't know that that's happening here in this community, but the communication historically has been, you are bound by law, and the reality is you're not. So I would ask them that question, and then the communication needs to be, if you want your schools to get the money, consider filling it out.
Mhm.
If you're ideologically opposed to it, ignore it, because there is zero penalty for not doing it. So it's a big ask. It really is. Yeah. Anyway,
Well, here we were doing better on free and reduced, and now they hit us with something else to look for. Brian, he just says he needs to be unmuted, so can I ask him a question? Carl. Oh, you can unmute yourself, Carl.
I'm trying. Yeah, it's working out.
Carl.
I had to acknowledge a critical security error, and then it let me on the on my other.
Do you have any questions for Jess?
No, I kind of was fooling around, and I just caught the tail end of it. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right, thank you. And nobody else? Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.
We're gonna go back to the beginning. Oh, I know how it feels. You need an iPad. All right, we're gonna do the adjustments to the agenda. It's the job description and the reporting of new hires and transfers. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
I just want to comment because you did send me a message about it. It is usually they say, do not do a lot of adjustments, but I know during the end of the school year, we try to get the hires because especially since it's hard to find people and to get things done. So that's usually, we try to be pretty frugal. All right, so I'm going to do roll call.
Yes. Kathleen? Joy?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Carl?
I'm not voting.
Barbara?
Yes.
Brad?
yes.
Liz?
Yes.
I think he thought it. All right, consideration of the minutes of the May 14th, 2024. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Comments, questions, revisions? Seeing none, roll call.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Joy?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes. Sorry.
I think he talked before. Carl,
Yes.
thank you.
Barbara?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Liz?
Yes. Okay, the minutes of the May 28th budget meeting. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second? Any comments, questions, revisions? Seeing none, roll call.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Joy?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Liz?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, minutes. Going. The minutes of the May 28th, 2024 special board meeting. Could I have a motion,
So
please?
moved.
And a second?
Second.
Comments, questions, revisions? Seeing none, roll call.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Joy?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Liz?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we've already done public comment, communications. We did the Region 9, new business, new hires, which is number 8. No, I don't know where it is. I'm looking. Oh, on the last page, okay.
I'm super excited tonight to bring forward Kelly Porter. I'll have her come up and join me. Kelly has been a long-term ed tech 3 in our district for special ed. And we have this alt ed opening and we interviewed and Kelly rose to the top. She is very student-centered, very excited about the chance to help students that might be struggling a little bit in their day-to-day running of the regular high school program. Kelly will be eligible, it's currently eligible for emergency certification under 2 avenues. One, anybody who is currently in Ed Tech 3 is automatically eligible for emergency certification. And you're also eligible if you're enrolled in a program, which Kelly is, and she's ready to do the work that she needs to do to be an outstanding alt ed teacher here at Darrigo High School. And I'm super excited to bring her forward for your consideration.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Kelly? Seeing none, could I get a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, roll call.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Joy,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes,
Brad,
Yes.
Liz.
Yes.
welcome,
Congratulations.
Kel. Okay. So next is the overview of the draft of the strategic plan. And is it Jana? Jana is coming up, committee member.
Hi, I'm Jana Richardson. Like they said, I'm a member of the Strategic Planning Committee. And I think Pam's passing out copies. I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but I want to tell you a little bit about how we got to that plan. So we were a group comprised of board members, staff from each school, parent representatives from each school, community members, and representation from the administration. We embarked on this process in October by reviewing plans from other districts, as well as our own RSU 56 plan that was created back when RSU 56 divided from RSU 10. In November, December, and January, we presented a community survey that was open to all RSU 56 households, staff, and students. We received 139 responses. We also held a community forum in December to provide a venue for public discussion. After reviewing examples of plans from other districts to enhance the format of our previous plan, we used the data that we gathered in the last 6 months to create a draft plan for our district. This spring, we presented that same population with the draft plan for review and feedback. Tonight, you have the latest version in front of you of the RSU 56 5-year strategic plan. I'm not going to read through it, but just a few things to highlight. As you can see, the mission of RSU 56 is to prepare our students to become purpose-filled, skilled members of the local, national, and global communities. In RSU 56, our vision is to be recognized as a district where students, staff, families, community members, and supporters expect excellence and are excited to work, learn, and grow together. We make decisions based on the best interests of students. We seek to make our Cougar community proud. We strive for integrity and excellence. The plan is divided into students, educators, connected family and community, and safe school environment. Each category you'll see has an objective, strategies, and performance criteria with which we will be able to measure progress. This plan is as a whole, is a comprehensive look at where we, as an RSU 56 community, would like to be and how we will get there in the next 5 years. It is meant to be a document that is kept in the forefront, easy to implement, and reviewed regularly to ensure progress. And I would welcome any questions for myself or other committee members.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
So I just want to say the reason this was last minute updated was because the strategic committee had asked the administrative team to look at the performance criteria for students. So that was updated slightly this afternoon. You can see that the wording was that the majority of our testing cohorts in RSU 56 will have median scores at or above statewide expectations, and that the 5-year graduation rate will be at above 90%.
Tell me where again that was. I'm sorry.
Yep, it's at the top of
Oh,
the
the
second page.
performance
It's under, yep,
criteria.
it's under students,
Yeah.
not objective strategies, but the performance criteria to measure their outcomes.
Any other comments? I was there too. I missed a few. I really like the new format. It's not listing who does it, what do it, because then you get lost in the shuffle. But I think a smaller one, we can look at it every year. I know the schools use it as their base for their own to follow through on our mission and vision, how they do incorporate ours with theirs is incorporated with ours. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Thank you for doing that. I need a motion to approve.
Make a different motion?
Yep.
That we wait until more board members are here before we approve it, maybe at the next meeting.
Okay, you want to table it?
I think it'd be smart for us to table it, so I make a motion that we table this to our next regular meeting, which I believe is our last, is that correct?
The 18th,
Yeah,
yes.
It would be opportunity for the rest of the board to
Okay.
comment.
Could I have a motion second on that? Second it. Okay, any other questions or comments? I hope we get enough. I'll make sure we'll try to get attendance of, you know, because some tell us, some don't. All right, I'm gonna do a roll call.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Joy,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Carl,
Unmute, Carl.
No.
Barbara,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Liz.
Yes. Okay, thank you for coming. It isn't anything against it, but that gives them, especially with a little time. All right, next. Yeah, go ahead.
So to clarify that, I don't need to have Jana come back again
No,
next
no,
time. They
no.
can just review it between now and then and vote on it. Thank you.
Yes. That was my understanding, but good clarification. All right, thank you. All right, we already did Title I Civil Rights presentation. The ad hoc committee. Oh, okay.
You guys nervous?
Diane's been doing this for.
I have been around a while, huh?
Well, so have I. So-
Sure.
I'm assuming Carl and Tina, you can see this?
Yes, I can see it.
Thank you.
Yes, very clearly.
Thanks.
The audio goes out once in a while, but I can see it. I can see it.
Okay, we'll make sure they go close to the mic.
Are you all set? Can you hear me okay? So I'm Diane Gallagher. As I said before, I am an educator advocate with SAPPERS, the Sexual Assault Prevention and Response Team, Response Systems, and I'm also a member of the Civil Rights Committee for RSU 56. The board established an ad hoc civil rights gathering data and reporting annually to the school board on relevant civil rights happenings, good or bad, in the RSU 56. The superintendent or designee will provide an annual report to the RSU 56 Board of Directors describing the work of the committee and any relevant information or recommendation. Okay. And so the ad hoc committee is composed of at least one RSU 56 school board member, the RSU 56 advisors of the civil rights teams, which there's one in each building, the building administrators, and up to 6 community or school stakeholders that are recommended by the superintendent, and that's where I come in. The committee chair will choose by the committee, the committee chair is chosen by the committee, but must be a member of the RSU 56 board. Membership is determined annually following relevant policy or where no policy exists as a recommendation of the superintendent. And there's a long list of 16 members there that have been coming regularly or depending on what their availability is.
So this is the first full year of district-wide civil rights violations data collection. So I just thought it would be important to go through some of this. So if you look down the side, you have the Darrigo Elementary School, the middle school, and the high school. And then each time the Civil Rights Committee met, we reported out how many civil rights violations we've had. So the first column after the schools on September 28th, you can see that there were 0 violations at Darrigo Elementary School out of the 47 majors. There were 7 at the middle school out of 38, and there were none at the high school out of the 10. So then we checked again during November, and then December, and then March, and then May, and finally we gave information for today. So that final column for actual today, you can see that at Darrigo Elementary School, we had 15 civil rights violations out of the 524 majors that were submitted this year. So that would account for 2.8% of the violations. The middle school had 60 out of 780 majors, which was 7.7%. And the high school had 32 out of 364 majors, which would be 8.8%. Any questions about the data?
What's a major?
A major means it's sent to the office. So there's teacher handled as minor. If it needs to be written up and an administrator handled it, it's called a major.
So of all of the referrals to the office, what's been determined here as a civil rights violation? It doesn't represent all referrals.
So
If there's 700 plus
right.
referrals.
If we told our staff from the beginning, if it's a civil rights violation, even if you handle it, put it in as a major and how you handle it. So all civil rights violations are considered majors. That's why we're only reporting out majors.
What's considered a civil right violation?
Any violation that would go against the civil rights law. So if a student used the N-word towards somebody, or if the student might have called somebody a poor choice of word and for their sex or something, or anything on terms of that. If a student made fun of another student for having a special ed IEP or any handicapping condition, any of those would be considered civil rights violations.
Based on what criteria is a civil rights violation for a child?
What's that?
Based on what criteria would we be measuring a civil rights violation for a minor child?
So we use exactly what our policy says and what the law says around civil rights violations. And a lot of times, like I am assuming Charlie in particular, when these happen, it's more about education than it is like you're out of school for 10 days. Like, you know what I mean? It's just having the opportunity to talk to them and help them to understand that those types of behaviors are not allowed in our society due to laws, and they're not allowed in our schools due to policy.
Do we make a distinction between bullying? And I disagree with the idea that children can be guilty of a civil rights violation, but what's the difference between I called you a nasty name and I'm bullying you?
Yep. So bullying is a lot of things happen outside of civil rights. Civil rights is really just what's in the law. So bullying is like, they might call you fat, or they tell you they don't like your hair, and it's just repeated. That kind of stuff we might treat as bullying if it happens, repeatedly and somebody feels targeted. So it's definitely different from civil rights, and it's handled differently. It may be a major, it may be a minor, depending on the level of, the mean, nasty comments. You're welcome.
I'm not sure how that is different. I mean, because if someone's calling them fat, if they identify some other way, how was that not a civil rights violation?
So fat isn't a protected group. So that's the difference. Like you look at the protected groups under the civil rights violations. The questions, or can I move on?
Move on.
So Derigo did have a diversity day. And as I had shared before in my report about Derigo High School, we had Josh Kennison come. He's the international paraplegic medalist. And we had Kenny Blaisdell come from Operation Reboot. And Alexandra Magno came from the Holocaust and Human Rights Center for the middle school. But we had breakout sessions at the middle school. There was lots of different sessions to choose from, as I had shared before. Everything from Seeds of Peace to the Larry Labonte Recovery Center to the Penobscot Nations, lots of them. And then at the middle school, they had more programs, and then they had Region 9 Culinary Arts come and provided lots of different nationalities to try for their dishes for food. So kids really enjoyed that as well.
Go ahead. Second one.
This is Liz Kelly talking. I heard a lot of feedback about Diversity Day, and it's probably no surprise the title of the day makes me cringe a bit. But you guys deserve a ton of credit. I think that was perfect. The broad base of guests that were there, it didn't strike me as having a bent in a certain direction. It was simply, hey, there's a lot of different people out there, and these are people in your community, and you should know these people. So I think you guys deserve a big kudos for pulling that off. I think was there some weather related issues or something that kind of messed with it?
We ended up having to release early that day due to weather. So we ended up with missing some of our presenters, but I also would agree, people did a great job getting a large, diverse group. That's hence the diversity name of people coming. The Center for Aging, he said he had never been invited to a high school before, and the information that he shared with the kids was really good. Again, I was really sad on that day that we couldn't have a member of the deaf community that was planning on coming because we couldn't get an interpreter for that day scheduled. But hopefully as it continues to grow, we can plan it out ahead of time so we can get all of those groups.
I would think that I think that's gone wrong in a lot of ways in other places, and it just impresses the crap out of me that I think we put it right where it belongs. That all kinds of different people out there in different professions and focuses and walks of life ability. So thank you for that. It came out great.
Somebody else doing this middle school line? They look like they don't know, so I'll just keep on talking. We are missing a few. So again, the Holocaust and Human Rights Center of Maine came to the middle school. In January, they worked on hate speech in schools and just what that looks like and what it sounds like and what you can and can't do. And then they came back in May and did another program called The Message Matters. And that really just introduced stereotyping and biases that we might have. So again, and they looked at what happened in Nazi Germany and used that as a platform to talk out of. So I know I'm not doing the Derigo Elementary School civil rights.
All right, so Derigo Elementary School Civil Rights Team is one of our most active teams. We started with 9 members, and it has increased to 14. And they meet every other week, or have been meeting every other week. Some of the things they've done, one of the things they work on at the beginning is they learn about the 6 different areas, the protected areas under the civil rights laws that Pam was referencing. And then they also create a poster related to that is up at our school. I asked them and invited them, and they were already planning it anyways, which was awesome, to take part in our Black History Month. So each month when I do an assembly, I try to do a learning piece of some holiday or something. And so I had asked the civil rights team to come and just share with us some important leaders in Black history. Each of the team members kind of shared, from sports stars to politicians and different people that they kind of had researched as part of their team meetings and shared with us as a student body. They most recently created posters that have been up around the school, just encouraging posters to students, just encouraging them that they're welcome, and they just want all the students in the school to know that they're appreciated and welcome, and those positive posters were in our hallways here in the last kind of couple months of school. And then as I said, they meet since November. They've been meeting every other week. And the team is, like I said, has grown since the beginning. We're up to 14 members. Students, this is for grades 3 to 5. And I just want to talk a little bit about how do students get into it, like what's the process for that. We send home information at the beginning of the year to parents in 3 to 5 if you want your child to participate in this. And then we provide a link that says these are some of the things that they'll kind of be discussing and looking at as part of the civil rights team. And if they want their child to participate in that, they send back the permission form and sign their kid up for that. And then Ms. Chickwin is our civil rights team leader for the elementary school.
Any questions for Charlie?
I have questions.
Go ahead, Tina.
So some of the facts that have been shared on these posters that I've seen myself are a little skewed and sideways, and very political. I don't really think they're appropriate for children in elementary school, quite frankly. And I imagine that I have spoke with other parents who kind of feel the same way. I just don't think this is age appropriate for third graders or fourth graders to think that there are 36 different genders. This blows my mind as being shared as factual information. I think other parents should be aware that their kids are being exposed to this too, because you are hanging this in at the front of the school, even where kids are beginning to read and they're going to have a lot of questions. So what are you doing in regards to that?
So your question to me is, what am I doing in regards to questions that students have regarding this poster?
Yes, because I mean, this is, some of these posters are very biased in one direction. And not the majority of parents are not going to agree with those particular sentiments. So I don't know. I'm confused on where are they getting the information? Who's okaying the information? Are the parents aware of the information that have kids in this particular club? And I'm not really comfortable with my kids being around it. So I'm wondering how is it approved and disapproved, and what resources are you pulling from?
Sure. So to date, I have not had a student ask me about any of the information, and I have not yet had a parent ask me to schedule a meeting with me about anything that related to these posters or anything that our civil rights team does. Again, I want to reiterate that our civil rights team is by choice of students and by permission of the parent. It's not a school-wide program. It's for students that are interested in this, and in students that their parents have given permission to participate in this. And they are spreading information, and positive information is their key one. Like I said, their main focus this year has been spreading positive information about wanting our school to be a welcome place for all of our kids, so that our kids don't feel like when they come to school that they don't belong, or that they're going to be picked on, or for whatever reason. So Tina, I have not had someone ask me that. Gender is a tough question in the elementary school, 100%. I agree with you 100%. It's not something, when we start getting closer to 5th grade, obviously sexuality and things like that, when we talk about our puberty and lessons along those lines, we get into some more detail with 5th graders about that. But gender is not something we necessarily discuss. If a student really were to ask me as the principal, hey, I'm reading the sign and I see gender, my first question would be, do you know what gender is? And if they said no, my next question would be, why don't you talk to your parents about it? And then if you have questions, talk to me about it the next day. But I have yet to have a student ask me about gender or race or disability or any of the 6 categories that are part of what our civil rights team is looking at.
Just a minute. You all set, Tina?
For now, yes.
Okay, Joy?
Use your microphone. No, it's good.
I'm pretty loud myself. You have 14 in this group right now?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Out of a possible how many?
Out of 3rd through 5th graders, we have about 175 3rd through 5th grade students.
Do you think it's the students or the parents that are?
I think it's both, to be honest. That's why we do both. Like we want, if the student's interested in being as part of this team, then we have that opportunity for them. But we also want the parents to be informed about, what we're talking about and what we're doing as a civil rights team in the elementary school. So that's why the parents are involved. And there is a link that is sent to the parents at the beginning where they can go on and kind of get the information that from the civil rights of the state of Maine. And so they kind of have an idea of what the team's doing and what they'll be discussing and talking about.
Are there a lot of, how do I say this the right way? Huh? Different. Okay, do you have Blacks in the school, Indians in the school? What's the word?
You're asking about our minority population?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a lot of that in the school? I
So
would think they would want to be a part of this.
I don't know if it's definitely not just based on their race or their skin color in terms of their interest in civil rights. So our minority population is pretty low. Like I would think a lot of schools in this part of the state of Maine it is. So but I don't think the interest level is based upon, because they are a minority or not a minority. The interest, I think, is based on here are some topics. We want to be a positive team in the school. We want all the kids in the school to feel like when they come to DES, they're welcome and they're not going to be discriminated against.
Well, that's what I mean. If I was a minority, I'd want to make sure I was in this group so I would get,
And again, I mean,
but yeah.
How much money are we getting from the state for this program?
we don't get any money as far as I'm aware of, Tina, for this team, for this program.
Mm-hmm.
Is this an after-school thing?
Yes.
Oh, it is
Yep.
an after-school thing. That might be.
But
part of
it's
it.
an after school thing, but
Yep.
like I said, during our Black History Month, they did share at our school assembly. The kids had done some research on African Americans who had kind of contributed in major ways in different avenues, like I said, from sports to politics to history. And they shared kind of the research they had done. Kids did a fantastic job with that when they're in their presentation to the school.
Yeah, good.
Kathleen?
I commend you that you seek to be welcoming to all persons. But I think the school needs to be a place of truth. And there are not 36 genders. It's not supported by science and it's illusionary. So I am with Tina that I haven't seen these posters, but I say that school would be a place of truth and welcoming.
Brad?
I was the board member who actually made the motion to recommend that we start the ad hoc committee, if that means anything. I was very, very opposed to it. But I said, look, I don't think that anybody on the committee or anybody involved is going into anything with the mindset of brainwashing children. I don't think that for a second. I think everybody wants the best. And I suspect, Charlie, that you're trying to create the most welcoming environment you can, where core values set aside, the golden rule applies. I suspect that. I'm not trying to talk for you. I think there's a major concern. I don't expect that a third grade is going to come up and go, Mr. Swan, will you tell me about that poster outside? And I do agree, you guys are saying, well, do you want to be part of this? Parent opt in, opt out. But there's a disconnect there. The children that are part of it, sure, opt in or opt out. Mom and dad get to say no. But the posters are on the wall. And I was looking for a poster that I had sent to me. I've not seen kids who create posters about lesbians, about transgender people, unless they're coached accordingly. With that being said, I don't think anybody's trying to coach anybody to any real end other than, hey, let's be good to each other. I think that the Civil Rights Committee is very well-meaning, and I think everybody in it is very well-meaning, even though that might sound contradictory by our questions. But parents in the community, taxpayers in the community express substantial concern about what goes on in the school, and they are cynical. And if they saw the posters on the wall, while they're fairly innocuous, they would lose their minds. I've had those posters sent to me, pictures from inside your school. Again, not impugning anybody's intent, but parents get quite upset about this stuff. Mm-hmm. It is sad that they don't communicate it. And I believe they probably don't communicate it. And Joy, I'm going to use you as an example. It's a very hard thing to talk about, to say things very frankly and very directly, because we get judged as bigots and haters. I have spent the last week being called a hater for the things I believe. And I don't think there's any hatred involved at all. I think there's things that are appropriate in the school and things that are not. So my concern with the ad hoc committee is not people's intent. It probably is directly in alignment with what Tina had said and what Kathleen has said. Whose truth are we talking about here? Because my truth is that there are boys and girls. My truth is that there are psychological disorders that affect us, and we're calling that science and truth, that's just the way it's always been. I'm deeply concerned that we are trying to be woke and we are trying to play the part so we look like we're doing the best thing we can, when then frankly, the golden rule is really what applies here. Simply that. We don't bully, we don't mistreat people, we don't ostracize Johnny and Mary because they're different. I spent 11 years getting bullied and pushed around and made fun of. And a year and a half of that was right here at Durago. And what I walked away from is children bully. They don't violate civil rights. But thank you.
Just to clarify, Brad, the civil rights committees are separate from the ad hoc. The ad hoc doesn't tell the civil rights what they're doing. They just come to report. Yeah, okay.
Barb, our civil rights team was a recommendation of the ad hoc committee.
Yes, but I'm saying we do not,
yeah.
the ad hoc does not run
Right.
the civil rights.
100%. Yep.
Because is it law that we need one civil rights committee? I forgot what the law was. I know there's a law.
I believe there is a expectation that there's a civil rights committee in the school district.
Okay, in the school district. Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead, Joy.
Not so much a question as what I understood today with the voting. When Brad said it's too bad that parents don't come forward with their, talking to people today, they show it in their voting. They're showing, I don't approve. They said, we won't approve the budget if we don't approve of what the school is doing. So in a way, and there was some that were turning down, for instance, they were going to write no on everything Peru was asking money for, because we're going to show the town that we're sick of paying for everything. And the only way we can do this is if we turn things down enough, they'll say, oh, wait a minute, maybe we ought to figure out there's a problem. And it's the same thing, I think, with the parents with the school, okay? I'm just gonna vote down everything that the school wants. Eventually, they'll figure out, I ain't very happy with them. And so I worry when things come up as the posters that they're not coming to Mr. Swan to complain. They're just gonna go to the polls and say, you want money? I don't think so. That's the opinion I'm getting from people that I've talked to.
I always iterate, whatever issue, if a parent doesn't go to the administrator or to the teacher, you've got to speak. I know I did. But and we do have some, but that is where you'll find the correct information. That is where they'll say, okay, wait a minute. So I encourage anybody calls me, I said, please call the teacher and the administrator, because we do have a third party complaint. And if you're not happy with one, you go to the next, to at least, because I can't resolve unless it's a major issue of emergency that, I call Pam and say, my God, that it has to be that. And they're not ogres. I mean, everybody likes our administrators. So.
When I got on the school board, I thought I was a representative of my townspeople and that they could come to me with. But when they come to me and I come to the school board, I haven't been able to satisfy them with answers because everything is confidential. Everything is so.
Hey, Barb, I'm not going to carry it on, but I think it's important, regardless of what we're saying here, it's important to recognize that you guys have made an effort. I don't think your presentation's done. And
No.
I think
No.
we should get through it. We can disagree with some of the actions and some of the information. For my part, I don't want you guys, any of you, to believe for a minute that I'm worried about your intent or your direction. I think this is a tough one and questions are going to be asked. So I would say, Barb, we should let them continue. Yeah.
Battery died. Go ahead.
Thank you. So, at the middle school, we met twice per month. So every other week we met. We had at our most 5 students participating. But we ended up with 3 reoccurring students almost all year. So the students worked on a couple different things throughout the year. They maintained a bulletin board in the cafeteria that was changed monthly to what was being celebrated that month. So that would be like Women's History Month and Black History Month and stuff like that. They also created a Day of Welcome poster that is hung in the lobby of the school. They also worked with the librarian to get books recommended for the month to correlate with the bulletin board. They also worked on a Valentine's Day project, which sent a Valentine to every single student and staff member in the building, saying that they are loved and appreciated and were given a piece of chocolate or candy. And we also, as a group, had challenging but productive conversations on what it means to respect the civil rights of others.
And I'm stepping in for Carolyn, who couldn't be here tonight. Carolyn Biot is our civil rights advisor at the high school. But at the high school, they really focus on the mission to increase the safety of all school students by reducing bias-motivated behaviors and harassment. So they maintained a holidays and observance board. It's out here by the gym. You can see it as you walk down towards the bathrooms. They maintained a monthly focus board. It sits on the stairwell heading up the middle stairwell going upstairs. They participated in a statewide day of welcome, and they did all the welcome signs throughout the school. They organized participation in awareness events, and they met weekly during activity period, and they met weekly after school. And they had 2 regular members as well as periodic members who popped in and out. Charlie, are you doing recommendations? You want me to just move forward? It doesn't matter. So this is the recommendation of the ad hoc committee. They felt like we are recommending that you renew the ad hoc committee to continue to collect local information and data and serve as an avenue for parents to be involved in problem solving, to continue to support the civil rights teams, and continue annual presentations to inform the board. But that is, of course, your decision.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Is that a decision we make tonight?
There's not a motion there, so, we can do it.
Next one if you'd like.
I'd like
Yep.
to make a motion.
Okay, we can,
I'd like to make a motion that we table this until the new board has been seated.
Yep,
I
there's
think it
no
would be
hurry
more
to do
fair
it.
to the team. It would,
Yeah.
there are going to be new members of the board. I think that they're going to be part of this for their term, and I think it would be appropriate for them to have something to say about it.
Yeah.
I would add, as uncomfortable as this is, that one of the posters in the school says, "Fun fact, there are 23 genders." This is
I
probably-
second that.
Sorry. So,
all right.
but with that being said,
So I'm gonna do a roll call just to table. And they don't start till July 1st, and I don't even know what.
It's not a motion item,
We
action
can just
item, so
table
we
it.
can
It's
just, I'll
not-
just
it's
put it on the
not there.
first,
Yep.
one of the first ones in August or September.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. All right, Brian, are you up for disposal of technology surplus equipment?
Good evening. So I'm here tonight with two separate requests. We have a lot of technology items from the past 10-ish plus years that through moving offices and cleaning out a few office spaces in the district, we found that need to be taken care of. We have one group of devices that are worth basically nothing. It's to the point where they need to be replaced and recycled altogether. The hardware consists of anything from old network devices, old printers, broken monitors, broken keyboards, basically anything that has been replaced over the years that has been damaged one way or another, or non-working devices. Also in that group would be the laptops at Dirigo Elementary School that we're in the process of replacing now. Those devices I throw into that category because they're right now we're losing around 1 to 3 laptops per week out of that group. Unfortunately, the batteries are beyond their useful life, and it's something that I would not be comfortable selling to resellers or public or anything like that, because like I say, they're well beyond their useful life. So I'm looking for approval to send those to a electronics recycler. There's a couple different ones that I've used in the past. They will give us something for the value of them. I am not sure what it will be. It all depends on what the total weight will be and the different types of devices that they get. Some of them we would get money for. Things like the broken keyboards, we wouldn't get anything for. But that usually is something we do. I'd say every 3 to 5 years, we'll go through and clean out closets and stuff. And it's been longer than that since we've done it. So that's the first part. The second part is looking for, we have a deployment of laptops, Apple laptops that we are pulling out of service to replace with iPads at the grades 6 through 8. Those devices can't actually leave here, and I can't officially dispose of them until after the 1st of August due to contract deadlines on how they were purchased with money. But that is something that we're looking at cleaning out over the summer and working with, I'd like to work with Second Life Mac. They're a reseller who resells Apple hardware. The reason I'd like to work with them instead of doing a public sale, as we have done public sales in the past, it is a significant amount of manpower on our tech crew, and we just don't have the time to dedicate towards that project at this time. The thing I like about Second Life Mac, they offer what they call a local sale option. So if we go with them and for the hardware surplus purchase, they will take our devices and in turn spin up a local sale website that is available only to our local area. And we can then in turn take that link and send it out through either our social media page, through our school district email, and then local citizens, employees, students, whatever, could go to that website and purchase a device from Second Life Mac at reduced pricing.
Any questions?
Nope.
Go ahead.
The defunct devices, those are being recycled for precious metals, right?
Yes.
So I'm assuming there's some kind of going rate for that typically.
Yeah, like I say, it all depends on weight and depending on the device, they might give a little bit more for a laptop than say a monitor or a printer, things like that. So it all depends. I think the last time we
Motherboards are
did
gonna be
it,
worth more, I would assume.
yeah, I want to say the last time we did it, I think the recycling shipment got like 3,000, 3,500-ish,
Cool.
I think.
Local sale.
Mhm.
I'm torn on that one because I get the manpower thing. Don't forget, 2 of us volunteered to help. That may not make enough of a difference. So it's a balance between what it's going to cost to have you guys
Mhm.
working extra time, right? I've been more of a fan of it's an RSU community bot resource. They should have first access.
Mhm.
To that point, the link that you post on social media, what stops Johnny from Boston buying that?
I honestly don't know. I can reach out to Second Life Mac and get more info on it. It's something I hadn't actually heard of it until I went to a training beginning of May in Portland and met with the reps. And I told them, I explained to them, I said, hey, because they said, well, we could do XYZ for you with recycling devices. I said, well, in the past we've done some stuff with local sales. And he said, well, I can help you with that. And we could do
That's
a
smart because they
local link.
probably realized like they bought it essentially, in some way tax wise.
Mhm.
I don't know that it's important to me that you get back and say this is how it's going to work. Just a consideration. If we're gonna have a local sale, it'd be nice if
Mhm.
people within the RSU, and I don't know that maybe there's a way to do it because if they go by address, well, I can go find anybody's address. The scammers that are out there.
Mhm.
So maybe there's some internal way to protect that, and I don't. I got ideas, but not to talk here. It'd be nice if we would pay respect to the taxpayer
Mhm.
and try to provide that local option. So either way, I
Yep.
support both.
And like I said, the hard thing we ran into, or the biggest issue we run into with local sales, there's 2 of them. One of them is my crew's manpower because we have to touch every single device at least twice. We have to pull all the labels off, all the asset labels off, which takes, believe it or not, a lot of time. By the time we scrape the labels off with a knife, scrub everything down, because nobody from the public is going to walk in and buy a device that is dirty, has fingerprints, scratches, or anything like that. The last time we had a lot of trouble with somebody came in, bought a device, they walked out in the parking lot, opened it. Nope, came back in. I want a different one. Stepped back out, did the same thing again. I had one person come in at least 6 different times. Finally, I told them, I'm sorry, this is what I have for devices. They're sold as is. That's the deal. We're looking at least for each individual device, not including the physical cleaning, just in terms of wiping the device and making sure it's out of our management systems, we're looking at least 15 to 20 minutes per device. So you take that and times it by, I have the 80 iPads that have been in my office most of the year, plus approximately 250 or 275 devices that are coming out of service. I have lots of closets that are full, but I'm losing my closets. That's why I need to get rid of some of this.
I have a couple of questions first. So to me, do the employee or the student have an option to buy?
Currently, no.
Okay. Because I know in the past, the board really liked the local, and if it wasn't working, I have no qualms with the garbage ones. So if they do a local, would it be affordable? Would it be comparable to what we charged?
So I'm not sure. And that's the other thing to mention with these devices, they are very new. They are going on this is only their 4th year in service. So if I sell them locally, in the past, we've sold our laptops for anywhere from about, I think the cheapest were like 100 to 125 to most expensive being about 175. Ballpark on these right now on eBay is pushing 500 to 700.
Holy.
Because they're Apple laptops with an M1 processor.
Okay.
So I mean, I would not feel comfortable selling them publicly here in the district for less than 250.
Okay. Now,
And even that would be
if
on the
we
bottom
give
end.
them to them, do we get more money from them for them?
Depends on the number. I haven't reached out to them and actually. run
Okay.
I would have to get a quote and
Okay.
and I
all right,
wouldn't
I'm
I
just-
wouldn't do it directly to them without soliciting 3 like I have in the past anyways.
Okay.
We
right.
always go through more than one just to see who gives the best price.
And that one we used before is gone, right?
They're long gone.
Okay.
And they still owe us 40 some odd thousand.
Well, we weren't the only ones. All right. So who Carl does? Go ahead, Carl.
I'm unmuted. So basically, if you did all those devices, it's like what, 363? 15 minutes, it's 88 hours. Why? But the demand is there. Every time we have one of these sales, everything is sold like immediately. There's going to be some people that aren't going to be happy, like the instance about the lady, but can't we take the top end ones and wipe those out, clean those, sell those ourselves, and send the bottom ones off to Mac, second place Mac or whatever you called it? Because there's quick, if you can get $500 a piece for the top end ones, say you did 40 of them, it's a little bit of change that could go back into the technology budget. Just an idea.
Thank you, Carl. Liz?
The ones that, because I bought a couple, like the iPads, they went for 75, I think, and the laptops went for 150.
Mhm.
So you're saying that these are newer, much better.
Yep.
The top
Yeah.
of the line, whatever, and they would go for at least 250.
That I wouldn't sell the laptops for less than 250 now. I would prefer to price them higher than that,
Yeah.
but I would have to actually do some price
And
shopping
of course,
to get
that was
that
good
amount.
prices that I thought on the iPad and the laptops before.
Yep.
Everybody wants a deal, obviously. So if you're jumping up to 250, you may not get just everybody that wants that deal because, the lower prices is what
Right.
drives the market.
Yep. The iPads would still be a similar price point as what they were before, but the laptops, like I say, they're
Yeah.
at a higher
How
price
much did
point.
the iPads go for?
70.
The last time I believe they were at the newest ones that we sold the last time were 75. The cheaper ones were 50.
Okay.
The iPads now those models are under 100 on eBay. So I would be, similar to what we did the last time for an iPad.
I have an idea.
Well, I just know the way go ahead.
The temper of the board so far is, geez, it'd be cool for us to be able to sell those locally, right? You're saying, we don't really have the time. But I would imagine if that was the direction, you're gonna do it. So I have to wonder if a little math is involved, like what Carl's talking about, is see what they would pay. See roughly what it would cost in man hours and time, like you guys get compensated for what you do. And depending on the spread in that number and the desire for the community to be able to buy those locally from the school and not some program, because clearly they're going to refurbish them and mark them up, right?
I would imagine.
They're going to gross those up. I bet they're probably 400 or close to what you're saying. So maybe my suggestion would be that we do some math, basic numbers, not get too, pinpointed with it. And if there's a huge spread by selling them locally and making people happy locally, maybe that's what we should do. If there isn't enough of a spread to justify it, and it really makes sense to do that, and do the local sale and, try to put some controls on whether they gross those things up too big. Like if you're going to sell them locally, can we get a cut on that? Can we, you know what I mean?
No, we don't.
No, okay.
No, all we would get is whatever they pay us per device, and then they take it from there. And
Okay.
it would be their turn, that transaction at
I
that
know,
point.
I recommend that we try to look at the numbers a little more closely and then make a decision. I don't want to sound like I'm putting everything off to the next meeting.
No, but can we vote on the
Oh,
the
absolutely.
disposable ones?
I make a motion that we vote to approve Brian's plan to dispose of the defunct equipment as reasonably as he's fit, right? For that, yes.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Joy,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Liz.
Yes.
Thank you.
Brian, give you a little more work. All right. On election of a delegate and alternate to MSBA. I know Kathleen, did you do it last year? I make a motion that Kathleen do it again. You don't want to? Oh, come on. Go
It
ahead.
was very informative. We had a storm and some sessions were canceled. But it was very informative and I passed this year.
We don't have to do it this quick, do we?
I forwarded from MSBA, the local delegate email, and they're asking us to do it in your June meeting. So we have today and we have next.
We'll think about it
Tuesday.
next week.
Everything's gonna be next week.
I know. Okay, in our folder is the dates for, oh, am I right? Yeah, I'm trying to find them. I had them, and of course I shove them places. Oh, right here. For the approval of the budget meetings, and it would be subject to having July, depending on the vote today, because we have next week. So we would have to, if the budget's voted down, we'd have to meet and do the things, correct? Okay, so could I get a motion on the school boarding meeting dates?
Hold on a sec.
Yep.
Is it reasonable to say that we would not have a board meeting on a voting day? Or am I missing something? Well, today's a voting day.
Well, we meet the 2nd and 4th.
No, I get it, but when it falls on an election day,
Oh, you mean November?
no, today is primary day.
Oh,
There's, voting going on right outside the door here, so, it just, I'm sending out a message to teachers, hey, let's vote, it's important. But if they wanted to be here, maybe they can't vote. Dixfield, sure, they're right here in front of the
Mhm.
door, but maybe not having our,
oh, the other towns.
on a formal
Yeah.
election day that we. could
Okay,
adjust.
okay, I will look to see, okay, all right.
In your next year's one, June 10th would be that date.
Would it?
They're
Okay.
doing a budget validation referendum in all 4 towns. And because you meet on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays, that would be a board meeting night.
I do know we've changed to.
Unless you want to take off June 10th and not have that meeting that night.
That's the only one that is doing that. And then we'd pay, but I do know you like having meetings. We could do,
I beg to differ.
no, at the end, for hiring, stop.
We could meet weekly.
We could do it Monday. Would that make a difference, the June 9th?
It's the will of the board. If
What
you'd
do you
like June
think?
9th,
What's, you have a different opinion?
Well,
I don't, it doesn't matter to me. Like, and it doesn't matter to me if you go to all Mondays, but all Mondays that's when
No.
RSU 10 meets.
I think we should change it to the 9th. That way it doesn't interfere with.
yeah,
public.
the voting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's the only date that we have. unless it's-
No, I think that's the only one. I,
It's like the 12th.
no.
No meeting
there-
for this birthday. But that's not the.
No. All right, so with that adjustment, could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second,
Second,
comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Joy,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Carl,
No,
Barbara,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Liz.
yes.
Okay, Charlie, you're up.
All right, back again. You, in your package, you should have a copy of the instructional coach job description. And I previously met with members of the personnel committee. Is that who I was with? All right, sorry. A few meetings ago. And so the job description, let me just kind of explain why I'm coming to you with this. So obviously our goals always are to improve academic instruction in our schools. And one of the big things that research talks a lot about is having job coaches. So we're talking literacy coaches, math coaches in the building that we're able to support through professional development, working directly with teachers to support them on instructional practices related to literacy skills or mathematical skills. So we had previously, when we were prior to RSU 10 and into RSU 10, we had both math and literacy coaches. We had a full-time literacy coach and a part-time math coach at one point. And then after they left for a while, we posted and tried to get people in and really did not find a lot of qualified candidates in that kind of position. So the positions kind of went away, and I'm just asking for the board to look back at the job description and kind of reconsider these positions. And the tricky thing right now is the funding for it. So we're looking at this through Title I. And so I might defer to Pam here just for a moment, but initially when I went to the personnel committee, I was looking at a full-time position out of Title I. When we met further with Mary and Pam and I and looked at the numbers and Dr. Swan, really that's viable for 1 year. And so having a coach for 1 year and then discontinuing that because the funding does not look like it will be available next year. As Dr. Swan already explained, we decreased in our Title I funding. So I'd like to also consider an option of looking at this in a stipend format as well. And that would be through Title I as well. And that obviously will not have the same requirements. Obviously, you're not going to do a stipend position that you're going to get the same thing that you would for a full-time position. But what I'm really looking for in this job description that you have before you is someone able to do professional development, to work in staff meetings, late arrival Wednesdays, and also being able to hire some subs through Title I funds to have this person do somewhere between 5 to 10 half days or full days, where we have a sub in if they're a teacher in the building. If they're not from the building, then that wouldn't obviously be something we would concern ourselves with. So that's kind of where we are, how we got here. So I'm looking kind of more for a vote on the general description of having an instructional coach, and then looking at it more, it looks like at this point, from the side of having it as a stipend instead of a full-time position. So you have the qualifications that we set. They're pretty elevated, and maybe that's why we haven't had people apply in the past, but really we're looking for somebody who has experience in the classroom. We're looking for somebody who's enrolled in a program, math. What we're specifically looking for right now is math, but it could be math or reading that and an advanced degree, so that they have some background in kind of in-depth knowledge on how to support our staff in their instructional practices in these areas. So I've listed out the knowledge, skills, and ability that we're looking for, and just kind of, I didn't create this. It was taken from RSU 10s. I looked at RSU 10 and Oxford Hills. They were the two closest that had job descriptions. RSU 10 was definitely more in line with kind of what we were looking for. So I don't feel I need to go through all of this. You probably feel the same way, but certainly want to answer any questions that you guys have related to this.
So is the qualification still the same?
Yeah, as of now, yes. Yep.
Okay,
I have a question.
go ahead.
Why do you always look at me first?
Because you got to look like you want to talk. You got that.
Not gonna pretend for a second that, I've trained people for a long time, but it's different than in school. I get it. Help me put this together, because this is truly, I misunderstand this. So we're looking to hire a coach for our teachers. That's the first question.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's the simplest way of, yep.
I'm trying
Yep.
to keep it simple.
Absolutely.
Into the weeds. First, the second question is, are our teachers not qualified in the instruction that they are teaching? So, and I don't mean that to impugn the teachers, but are they not coming out of college or wherever we're grabbing folks qualified to do the instruction? And addition to that, why wouldn't development opportunities at a university school not address that concern?
Yeah. So, yes, our teachers are qualified in general to teach math, reading, writing, and social studies and science in our schools, 100%. So what our coaching person would do, Brad, is, so we have expert level. I have some teachers who are really good instruction in reading, and some that are really good in math, and some that are really good in both, and some that maybe not as good in either of them, but are kind of in that average range. So an instructional coach is somebody who's able to say, hey, let's take a look at what you're doing, what you plan. Maybe it's something with your planning. Maybe it's something with your delivery. Maybe there's something with what one of our major focuses is looking at the data. Like, hey, let's help you dig down into this data, and how can this be useful for you in terms of, okay, this kid is struggling. What are they struggling with? Or your whole class is struggling in this area. What are some ways we can kind of look at some different techniques and things to support you in these areas? So yeah, a lot like a coach for a baseball team, or somebody might say, hey, I'm looking at your swing. You're doing this. This is a minor adjustment you need to make, or, you got to keep your eye on the ball. Similar to that, but certainly in the area of math or reading instruction.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is it possible that this could be addressed with coursework?
So I think that's two different things. Like when you're doing a course, a lot of time the learning is kind of this back and forth with the professor. It's not always a hands-on. I'm in my room, I'm getting a direct feedback from somebody, or I'm getting some support and help, or I've got a problem and I've come to somebody for direct solve. I know when I've taken coursework, sometimes it's more philosophical based. It's not, hands-on application kind of stuff. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's really good. And so that's another advantage of having a coach, because they've gone through a lot of the training and they've weeded that out, and now they're able to say, hey, these are some of the things I've learned. These are some of the things I'm applying in my classroom. Does this work for you, or does this not work for you?
Last question.
Sure.
You as the administrator have a lot of responsibility. One of them is to observe your teachers. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And is it safe to say that there are certainly suggestions you could make for their classroom management and their teaching, but you wouldn't necessarily be qualified substantially to be that coach?
So in some ways, yes. So like I explained last time that one of the things our school is doing is all the teachers in our school are enrolled in a letters training, which is a very intense literacy training, 60 hours over 2 years. And I'm enrolled in that. And part of the reason why I want to be involved in that is because I want to learn the same thing my staff is learning, but I also want to be able to give that feedback if I'm in a room. So it's totally different though. I don't want to cross the lines. Like, a coach is not there to evaluate them. And so when that lens is on more than a coaching line. I can go in, and staff have asked me, hey, I'm doing this lesson. I think it's a great lesson. Will you come in an informal way and just watch it, celebrate, something going on. But a coach would be more somebody who is, especially in a stipend role, if that's the way we're kind of moving. would be someone kind of looking more with the team or with the staff on their data. Maybe, like I said, if we're able to get subs in to be able to go in and just, sit and, okay, I'm going to watch this lesson, or having them go to that person's room and say, I'm teaching this math lesson on fractions. Come in and watch me do it, get some tips, write some notes, and then we can discuss that later. That's a lot of times what coaching will do. One or the other. I'm going to observe you, give some feedback, you observe me, and have that conversation together.
Very clear answer. Thanks, Charlie.
You're welcome.
So with the job description, you said the qualifications staying, everything else, the knowledge, the skills,
Yes.
the functions.
Yes.
Okay.
It would be modified, obviously, if it's a stipend position in terms of
okay.
amount of time. Because you can't expect someone in a part-time stipend role like that to be able to do
yes,
everything
correct,
that
what
you would
you
want in a
had
coaching role.
presented,
Yeah.
yes. All right,
So,
any other
I-
questions? Go
I
ahead.
had a quick question. Financially, it's stipend. So, but is this something that we would have funds allocated for over and over again every year, or just this year? Because I
So-
was a little confused on that.
Yep. So Tina, where it's out of Title I, decisions with Title I funding is used when goals are when Dr. Swan sets the goals, or when we as a school set the goal and we make a decision about, okay, these are the goals we have. Then how do we need to use these funds to best reach those goals? And those are really determined year by year. And frankly, the amount of staff we have in Title I is kind of determined year by year based on the amount of funds we have. So
Okay,
it
so
would
we
really
don't
be
have
based
to.
on-
We don't have to increase our budget, is what I'm at.
No. Nope.
Okay.
This would be another one of these Title I positions that Dr. Swan referred to today in her presentation.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And we are, Carl, thank you.
Charlie, when the COVID funding came, I was kind of confused, so I researched it. And it was 3 tiers of funding, correct? One tier, the schools could basically do whatever they wanted that would help their situation. We bought buses, we did ventilation. But the third tier, the last one, you had to send 20% of that money had to go to recovery. Now this definitely looks like a recovery period because the federal educational figured COVID has affected our school system. It's affected our test scores. So they earmarked 20% of that last tier of funding to recovery of education that was lost due to remote learning or COVID or whatever, and jump in anytime. I didn't know if Dr. Swan was around to answer any questions on if this position could go on that. When does this ESSER, this third tier of ESSER, when does this expire? And would this carry this position for more than a year maybe? And then we could try the Title I on it?
So I'm not an expert. It sounds like you probably
Yeah,
know
no, I just read
much
because I
in
was
your
totally
review of
confused.
it as
And,
I do. But
and what I read could have been wrong, who knows? But I read several sites.
no, I think a lot of what you said is pretty accurate, and Pam can jump in, but I believe our funding for that is ending at the end of September. Is that correct? So
Yes, so Carl, you did read it correctly. 20% of the final round of funding had to be for recovery, which we have been using that for. However, it all has to be spent by September of 2024, at the end of September. So we wouldn't be able to use it for a position in that first year.
Oops. No, that was kind of my main question. Okay.
Dumb question, maybe. Can we pay for it in advance?
I tried, Brett.
thought about
I tried.
So it doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
So, and any other questions? Tonight, we're just voting on the job description.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and if it comes to a stipend or whatever, it's a new position, so it will come to the board.
And that would be closer to the fall. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
So that
details
would
around
not-
that would need
Make
to
a
be
motion
worked
to
out.
approve the description as written.
Second,
Second.
comments or question? Seeing none, roll call?
Kathleen,
Yes.
Joy,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes, sorry, couldn't get my button to work.
Carl,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Liz.
Yes.
Oh, I was off. Board member comments.
Yes. I think most of the ad hoc committee has left. Is that the case? Because I can't see faces back there. I see Charlie. I just want to reiterate that it probably felt, I'm guessing it felt pretty thankless standing up there with board members, asking questions that were very uncomfortable. And I would say that certainly not, I'm always going to have questions and I'm never going to be afraid to ask them, even when they are uncomfortable. But I would hope that the ad hoc committee would feel that their work is not unnoticed. It is not unappreciated. While some of us may disagree with the content, I don't think that I personally disagree with the intent and the good intent that people have in that. And I think it's just important that that's on the record. I would hate to see that committee, if it is renewed, to go, yeah, no, we weren't appreciated, and I would hope that's not how they feel. I would hope that they would recognize they're on a committee that is quite tough. It is tough because you're gonna piss somebody off on one side or another. So I would say I would leave it with that.
Any other board member comments? My comment is I went to all three of the senior activities, and what an interesting group of kids. They're so different. You know, like I didn't even know I was judging the valedictorians trifold when I got like, oh my God. Then to see the difference with the instruments they play, the singing they did, it was it was amazing. It really was nice. And I commend everyone involved. It was really nice. Any other board member comments? Moving on, superintendent's report.
Just a reminder that this Thursday, June 13th, is the last day of school. It will be an early release day, so student dismissal will start at 11:30. All staff are required and all board members are invited to attend a luncheon at 12:30 at Derigo High School. The luncheon includes recognition of our retiring employees as well as recognizing years of service for other employees. Additionally, there will be raffle prizes at the end of that. So as a board member, if you'd like to donate a raffle prize, if you could get it to me by the end of the day tomorrow, that would be great. And I'm reminded that we do have another board meeting next Tuesday, June 18th. We will not have the board meeting on June 25th as previously discussed. If necessary, later in the summer, we will contact board members to have a late July or early August meeting for the purpose of new hires. And this is the last meeting that we will have Zoom happening. So this will be the last meeting that's Zoomed live because that's coming out of the budget, as you know. And I would reiterate what Barbara said. I was very pleased with the graduation, all of them, from candlelight to final assembly to the graduation itself. I thought they went really well. The students handled themselves well for all of those. Angus King was able to keep his speech pretty short and not political. It just all went really smoothly, and we graduated 50 students, and I was just really proud of all of them. And I'm going to do some reporting of new hires and stuff while Miss Conley is making her way to the stand. So we did interview and hired Kelly Skillens for our middle school, high school library ed tech 3. We have Beth McFarland coming on the Derigo High School leadership team. We have Nicole Knowles as the 8th grade class advisor for the 24-25 school year. We have some resignations that occurred. As you know, Tammy Brown was hired, but then prior to actually starting, she resigned. So she resigned effective for immediately because she won't be starting the next school year with us. Leah Nolette resigned as our co-drama club advisor. Abby Johnson resigned as the middle school ELA Ed Tech interventionist and co-drama club advisor. Sean Webster, bus driver custodian, resigned effective June 28th. And Kristen Arsenault, middle school, high school Ed Tech 3, resigned at the end of the contract year. She will be going to Mountain Valley High School as their librarian. We have some transfers. Meg McFarland is transferring from the middle school science and math teacher to a full straight math teaching position there. And Kate Toole is transitioning from the special ed tech at the middle school to the ELA interventionist ed tech position at the middle school.
Good evening. I'm gonna keep this short. So you guys have been sitting here for a couple of hours, but I wanted to give you some updates from special education. This is actually our first year that we're kind of going or ending the school year with some openings in the special education department. We've got an opening at DES for an ed tech, but there's been a request for a transfer. So that would leave us, if that transfer goes through, we would have 2 open ed tech positions at our high school and 2 open ed tech positions at our middle school. We are interviewing tomorrow at the middle school. We've got 4 pretty good candidates. So I'm hopeful that we're going to get those positions filled, but I did want you to know, thankfully, we do not have any teacher openings. So we're solid with our special education teachers. We've been notified by the DOE. We are in the cohort to be audited for next year. So they will be, we do a lot of pre-work for them. I review 20 or so files, send them off to them for review. We do kind of a self-audit, which the staff will be a part of. And then they come on site. They've already given us the date. So they'll be here on May 28th, reviewing files in person, visiting programs if they're available. We went through this 3 years ago, did quite well, but I'm certain they always find areas that we need to do some corrections or professional development on. So I just wanted you to be aware that we'll be going through that next year. And then something I thought I would share with you, just because you may have been hearing about it in the media, is this transition of services from CDS to public schools. And that is our children ages 3 to 5 with disabilities right now are serviced through CDS, which is a state-run organization. And by 2028, we are required as public schools to take over those services for students with disabilities from ages 3 to 5. At this point, we start at age 5. CDS handles before that. So that's in the works. There are districts that are right now early adopters of this. We did not opt to do that. In part, we have some space issue concerns, but I also kind of want them to work out some of the kinks before we're jumping on board, but we will have to by 2028. Part of why this is happening is because the state of Maine is one of very few states in our country, actually, that still has the CDS system. But part of why it's happening is that the current design is sort of a standalone and doesn't have that educational component. And we are by law required under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act to be sure that we are meeting the requirement to provide education for students with disabilities at the same rate that we're providing the same thing to all students. So in particular for 4-year-olds, we should be providing what we're providing to all 4-year-olds in our preschool programming. And that is difficult under the current design because CDS oversees that. The DOE has assured us that they're going to provide technical assistance and that the funding for this will be outside of our EPS formula and that it will be 100% funded. So what that looks like in action, I do not have answers for you today, but that's what we've been told.
It should be in writing.
Yeah. The CDS regional sites that we now have are going to turn into sort of regional hub sites where they are saying they are going to have a menu of options for us to be able to access. I'm going to be really transparent that right now we frequently get students that we don't necessarily know coming into our kindergarten who have IEPs and have received no services at all. And they kind of land on our doorstep
knowing that they have these needs, but they've not received anything. Part of that is, and it's openly acknowledged, there's a shortage of providers. There are people writing IEPs for students right now, ages 3 to 5, that have never met the student. Actually, 90% of the IEPs are being written by people who don't know our kiddos. So in that way, there are many, many benefits to us having these students be just part of our district. Let me see. This year we've had, so we do a transition meeting in the spring right now when they're aging into the public school system at age 5 with the CDS staff. We've had 5 of those this year. 1 student is in our pre-K that will likely be identified, but not yet. If we were to add the 3-year-olds and up, we would be at an influx about 14 to 15 for if I was just looking at this year. So I can see where our 3-year-olds are. They're not our responsibility yet, but I would, based on this year, that's what that would look like if it were happening now. Just another thing that you do need to know is that parents are able to request an extension and stay with. So once this goes into effect in 2028, parents can ask for an extension and stay with Part C is what it's called, that 3 to 5-year-old. And nationwide, more and more parents are doing that because that program has the ability to focus more on the whole family. So we may have students that would qualify that we would have to support, but a parent may say, nope, I don't want to move in that direction. I want to stay with the extension of Part C.
Can you quickly, what is Part C? If CDS is passing.
So it's all, there's like from birth to 3.
Yeah.
Then the 3 to 5 is
3 to
Part
5,
B, and
yeah.
Part B is like once we're at the older ages from 5.
Okay,
and up.
so
that's
the
just
3 to
broken
5
out.
is C. So they could stay with who?
They can do an extension. So with CDS still running that piece of it.
So
CDS isn't going away.
oh no, they're just going to have us look for the providers now.
The structure is definitely changing. I can share with you that in a couple of meetings I was in this year, our district contracts with Maine Health for speech
Mhm.
services. So I was able to say, oh, you don't have a speech provider? I know that they contract with you, CDS. How about you send them a referral because they have availability?
Okay.
So they do have a central website. I think the problem is they're understaffed. But the bigger problem is that the federal government is aware that Maine isn't meeting their IDA obligations.
Okay.
So that,
Sorry.
nope, that's okay. CDS was designed more of as an administrative oversight structure versus really adding that educational component, which we're required to do. Let's see. So just some benefits. I think I've talked about most of them, but we do sometimes have families coming into our public school systems really frustrated already with special education services, and we're kind of lumped in with that CDS process. So if we can sort of own that and, know the families, be doing the work, know the students, and not be writing an IEP for a student we've never met. I think there are a lot of benefits for kids when we talk about this shift. So that's another positive. And then again, we having eyes on, if kids are in our building at 3, we're able to see what their needs might be and make appropriate decisions around that. We've had some circumstances where, again, manpower, a kid is lingering without services, even though we're aware there are many needs because of how the structure is at this time. So yeah, I just thought it would be helpful for you all to hear about what's kind of out there and being talked about when it comes to our 3 to 5-year-olds. And I am not going to profess to be an expert on this at this time, but this is the most recent information I've received from the state level. I do have monthly meetings with the Department of Education and the Director of Special Education. Questions for me?
Have we heard from Head Start at all?
No.
No, so are they just gone away? Because we had tried to go with them, so we went, obviously, that's a bust. Because I commend you for being very positive, because it's very discouraging, because to me, it's like we're passing the buck now, where when they start doing birth to 3, then I have issues. Because I even saw that somebody at one of the no, we're supposed to be educating. And so I just don't trust them to fund it. And I don't know where we're going to put people. We'll have to, I don't
I
see
will,
that.
I will say to you that for 3-year-olds, our obligation is a little different. We still have to have an educational component, but a 3-year-old does not have to have the same access as all 4-year-olds. So we could, and the DOE is pushing for or talking about multi-age classroom at that point. And that can look very different. So a 3-year-old, if all of your 4-year-olds are coming 3 days a week to your preschool, then your 4-year-olds with disabilities need to come 3 days a week to preschool. A 3-year-old won't necessarily have to do that. So a 3-year-old could potentially come in 2 hours a day for us to work on that educational component. So there is an educational component to what we would have to be doing. And it could be that, you know, we have a 3-year-old and their primary disability is speech and language. So we're making sure that while they're in our school for the 4 hours a week, if that's how their program is designed, that they would get that service while they were present.
I have a question.
Sorry, go ahead.
Who's changing the diapers? And it's a serious question. Who's changing the diapers for here, wherever we're going to do this? Because I didn't quite get what you were talking about, almost all of it. Because it's a bit out of context, I think, for, like, I don't know, talk for everybody, but for us. So essentially what we're talking about, and I just got it when Barb said, like, what are we doing with like babies to 3 years old? We're going to start.
I just saw that right now they're requiring.
I know, but that.
3 to.
But at 3 years old, why would the school be responsible?
So it's really kind of a federal law. That's the IDEA piece, and providing a free and appropriate public education to all students with disabilities.
For a 3-year-old? So what about 3-year-old Johnny who doesn't have a disability? Isn't that discriminatory against that 3-year-old that should be allowed to come here? Or is it preferential to the kid with disability? And I have no problem with kids with disabilities. I get it. I have a child that has an intellectual disability. I get it. But what are we talking about here? Are we talking about becoming a daycare for youngsters?
No, I mean, I would not.
I know this isn't you, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it just seems
No,
nuts.
it's not me. But no, I would not. I wouldn't support us being a daycare. It is, you know, this has been talked about. Gosh, I've been working in special education it's been on the news. I mean, this has been coming down the pike for us for a long time. Maine did get reported to the federal government for not meeting FAPE and IDEA because of our current structure under CDS. So who's changing diapers? Good question. I think we would have a lot of logistics to work out. There's transportation pieces, there's staffing pieces, there's space, there's, program time.
It seems like an impossible task. And the other thing that I would ask, and maybe you don't know the answer, and I don't want to be crass here. If part of being a 3-year-old is learning to use your hands and it's dexterity stuff and you're playing with Play-Doh, that's what we did when I was a kid. You're playing with Play-Doh. Does that mean that the child who has an inability to use their hands must learn how to play with Play-Doh? If we're talking about equality, I know we like to use the word equity. Is that the kind of insanity that we're talking about pushing here? Is it go that far?
No,
Okay.
no, it would really, again, these children are generally identified, if you're talking 3 years old, oftentimes it's going to be through their primary care physician or, right now, that's what's happening. If they were in our school and we were noticing that a 3-year-old was really struggling to access their education for whatever reason, we might order evaluations, and those are what would guide what their individualized education plan looks like. But that is what it is. It's an education plan. If they extend their time in Part C, it's more of a treatment plan. So that's the difference in approach.
How many 3-year-olds at DES right now?
How many 3-year-olds? Yeah,
We don't have any.
Yeah.
You have to be on or before October 15th to come into our pre-K program. So we don't have any 3-year-olds at Derigo Elementary School at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, this is going to be a lot of change and
Yeah,
things,
and as we progress further down this road, so I have to do myself and my team, we will need to do a whole plan that the DOE has to approve. So you are going to be hearing a lot about this. I'm just sort of giving you that initial groundwork of what's coming down the pipe, because we don't have a choice, and it is going to be a requirement by 2028. I'm not in a rush personally in this moment, and in talking
Is
with
there
our
gonna be-
superintendent, for us to, and Charlie, to jump on this. I think I want to see how it's working in some other districts. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you. I did see where somewhere it was on the news, and I'm like, wow, you're ready to go.
Yeah. I do think there are some benefits. And when I'm sitting in those IEP meetings and seeing that students, aren't getting their needs met, they're not getting their services, that's hard to see and know they're coming into our kindergarten without getting anything. So we're kind of starting from the beginning there.
Thank you.
For what it's worth, parents should be aware of how many people are watching this, but we really are talking about cradle to grave government involvement in people's lives. And that is where we're heading. If we're talking about bringing and we're not talking about infants right now, that will happen. We will become daycares, and that is what the school is going to become. And that is something I think that we should all abhor and fight like crazy. It's absolutely insane to bring 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 4 is really pushing the limit into the school system. It's an unreasonable burden. If you think your budget's bad now, wait till all that's put on our shoulders. So I would hope that you would push back as much as you
functionality purposes.
Yep. Carl, you got something to say?
Brad answered, I asked the question on 3-year-olds. That was it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good evening.
And now we'll invite Gina up to do a nutrition report.
I'm gonna, is it okay if I step out? I fell and hurt my ankle earlier, and so I'm on some medications and I'm struggling to stay awake. Is it okay? Okay.
We got his adjournment. There's no other,
Okay.
sorry, take care.
All right. Thank you.
Well, we can stay here all night.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, good evening. I'm gonna be kind of short and sweet too. So the nutrition department operates 7 USDA programs, including the National School Lunch Program, Breakfast Program, Child and Adult Care Food Program, Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program, Smart Snack Program, Summer Feeding, and the Food Distribution Program, which is our government commodities. And as of yesterday, I took the counts. As of yesterday, we had 60,707 breakfasts. We get reimbursed at $2.50 per meal. So we're averaging 357 meals per day. DES, the participation rate is 53%. At the middle school, it's 50% and 48% at the high school. That's just for the breakfast. Lunches, we've served 81,458 meals. The reimbursement rate for that is $4.33 per meal. So we're averaging 479 meals a day. And participation rate for the lunches is slightly higher. DES is 67%, DMS 73% and DHS 50%. So it was actually, the high school has gone up tremendously this past year. We are offering CACFP, which is the Child and Adult Care Food Program, and this is offered at the elementary level for the after-school program. We were able to provide 3,375 meals for that. We do like what they call a super snack. It's a little more than just giving them like crackers and a milk. We actually offer fruit and vegetable, milk and stuff, so that we get a higher rate. And I didn't write down the rate, but it is higher than, I think it's $4.53 actually. We were notified that we did receive the fruit and vegetable program again for DES and DMS. So it'll start in October. So those funds run from October 1st through September 30th. And we try to end our year and start in October. So we get everybody kind of starting the year out. Summer feeding program, we will be starting, it'll be in conjunction with the summer program at DES. So it's going to be June 24th through the 27th, Monday through Thursday, and then starting again in July 8th through August 1st. And that's again Monday through Thursday. Any child under 18 that lives in the area is free to go to lunch if they want to eat, about 11:45. We were offered the supply chain assistant money, and we were able to spend it all. We had $21,392. We spent it. We actually used milk invoices to help with that. So we didn't really pay the milk invoices out of our regular reimbursement. We also received a little under $4,000 in local foods fund from the federal government, and that was reimbursed 100%. So if I sent in an invoice and it was local, we got 100% reimbursed for that. We had a state local foods fund in the amount of $5,500, and we just finished that this past month. And for every $3 we spent, we get $1 back on that. The new dishwasher at DES is up and running. So that was put in April. We received a check for $10,000 that we received as an equipment grant from the state that has come in. I received a scholarship to attend the national conference, and that's going to be held in Boston this year. It's a 3-day event with lots of training. There's a lot of training. I'm hoping I can get all of them in, and networking. And we also secured 3 more spots for the Culinary Institute training that's going to be held in Farmington this year in August. So I have 3 staff going: Wanda De Palma, Heather Bishop, and Sonia Blaisdell. And that is a full week. And I went last year along with 2 other staff. It's a really good opportunity for those girls. And due to that relationship that we had last year with that program, Chef Sam Cohen's Gastro came to DMS back in May to observe and offer any help or guidance, but she will be returning in September, September 18th. It's like I thought I wrote down, to do breakfast items and taste test. If anybody wants to pop in to see that, we're going to do breakfast. She's going to prepare breakfast, but we're going to offer it at lunchtime, just as a little snack type thing, just to have them try stuff. Because one of the things that are coming down the pipeline for us is we're going to have to offer less sugars at breakfast, and the sodium counts are going down. So we're trying to already move into that. And right now we have 4 staff that are ServSafe certified, but in August we have 2 more staff that are signed up to take the 2-day class, and we will be certified after that. And that's about it.
Any questions for Gina?
Yes.
Yep.
Hi.
Hi.
I used to work in the lunchroom here.
Yep.
When Kelly Bluen was
Yep.
there. I loved it. And I always liked school lunch. Couple questions. You mentioned we're reimbursed per meal.
Yep.
Breakfast being different than lunch. Would you say that for the reimbursement that we're receiving, that we're able to provide minimally processed foods?
We have tried to move more into scratch cooked all the time. So honestly, next year, my goal is to do more like school-made muffins rather than purchase. But that is one of our difficulties is the breakfast.
Oh, yeah,
offer.
it's just like cereal, sugar.
We do offer cereal and we have to offer a lower, which we buy a cereal that I don't even think they offer in the store. So it is less sugar, but still, yeah. it's still hard.
Okay, so that's the first question. Second question, school, summer lunch program.
Yep.
It's probably easier to, cook appropriately in large quantities for what you can predict during the
So,
school day, but
yep.
what's the food waste are we looking at in the summer program?
So the summer program, mostly it's, for the most part, we don't really have walk-ins. The most part, she will make like five to six extra items.
Is it like bag lunches or something?
No, actually, it's pretty much the same menu that they'd get during lunch because they have the Century 21 program.
Yeah.
And then the kids that needed
How do they
special
cook
help.
at scale without wasting a lot
So
of?
they actually have a sign-up sheet, so the teachers will sign they'll give them the two options and they'll sign up for the meal. So that will give.
Last question, thank you. Last question. Please tell me there'll be salt on the table available to the kids.
We can't. That is one of the requirements. We cannot put salt on the table.
It's so bad for kids not to have salt,
Yeah,
but anyway,
no, we can't.
thank you very much.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that are coming down is we need to start even lowering the salt in the foods. So.
I'm really excited that the high school has gone up
It
because I
has.
knew that. That's great. I did see about potassium, but isn't the processed food, doesn't that have a lot of, so how are they going to work around that?
The sodium?
Yeah.
So they are going to start reformulating. I think they'll start reformulating all the recipes.
Okay.
So if we buy from somewhere,
There's got to be
like
an
I said,
alternative.
We don't a lot of times get us the same our muffin has to be whole grain and it has to be lower in sugar and salt
Okay.
than what you could walk in the store to buy in the first place. They make like school items and then they make general public items.
Oh, okay.
So what we're serving is
Find a
not.
way around that.
It's a
Yeah.
very interesting little process. One day I had to cover the cafeteria because we had a lot of people out.
Yep.
And I was literally climbing into the back of the closet to find seasoning. And the next day Gina's like, you're not supposed to put that on there. And I'm like, tasted good.
Well, you can put-
It said it
You
tasted-
could put
I'm the
spices.
superintendent, I do what I want.
Yeah, you can put, spices, but we can't put salt. You need to watch the sodium level. And yeah, but there's nothing I can do with that, so.
We had one kid last year that brought his own bottle of ketchup every day.
Yep,
Oh.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we actually, this year,
All right.
we have actually started making our own like ranch dressing, because that's one of the highest sodium. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
making that.
No, I think we've got a little bit left. Thank
Good.
you very much. All right. You're done? Okay. Committee report, student rep not here. Policy, I'll talk more. We have one coming for a first reading next week. And there are a couple, the medicine again, and the nurses are looking over the concussion one. And I think there was a couple others we got. Finance,
Finance meeting is Tuesday, June 18th at 5 PM in the high school conference room. Casey from RKO will be here zooming to go over the 22-23 audit.
curriculum,
Nothing to report.
building and ground. Go ahead.
Nobody's here but me, I guess.
Go ahead.
Kyle can jump in. Because I didn't really take any notes because I didn't know that I was gonna have to do this. But Kenny gave an update on the cost that fuel had gone down significantly due to the renovations to the buildings and the heating and heating and air conditioning systems. So, and I don't have the numbers, but they were significant. I don't think he's locked into next year's yet because I think they're encouraging him to wait a little while longer. If I'm wrong, please jump in. Anybody? Okay, Kyle may,
Yeah, that's correct.
okay,
There's like 20% less fuel use
Right. So I thought.
great.
that
Oh,
was-
no, not fuel, electricity.
What?
It was electricity on, the heat because of the pony boiler
That's right. That had a lot. to-
and fuel, but there's a lot of electricity involved in some of the ventilation that was saved also.
Okay, and then there was a hitch in the building, the garage. They were all ready to pour cement. I think I'm correct, Kyle. When the inspector came and found that the fill did not meet specs, whatever that was supposed to be, and they had to dig that all up. They were 2 weeks ahead to begin with on the schedule. So the inspector stayed, I think, for a few days, made sure that they got the right aggregate or fill or whatever they're supposed to have in there. So that was kind of not a good thing. But anyways, that got taken care of. I don't know if they poured yet or not. I don't think at that time they had.
They
but
have poured, in fact, they've actually put the braces, the outside of the building is up. So if you ever get a chance to go by the middle school, you can see the floor is poured and the sides are up. So it'll be finished relatively quickly, I think, at this point.
Yeah, so anyways, that was fixed and it's a good thing they caught it, actually. Let's see what else.
I'll butt in on that a little bit there. They used this when they dug the footers, they used the same material to compact around the walls, and they were going to use that same material under the floor, and it was not up to the quality of the state. So they had to dig it all up. And when he said the inspector stayed, is a lot of times when something gets rejected, the state inspector, he goes home at such and such a time and he doesn't come back, but that guy stayed and made sure they dug everything up. So he kept coming back. So a lot of times they just say, yeah, just take care of this. So they made him dig it all up, and it was quite a cost to the contractor. I believe it was cross excavation. They tried to use the same material that they dug out with, and they were just trying to save money or make money. Yep. I do want to mention something to the finance for you, hang everything up there too.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. When I voted today, and I think we voted, or we discussed not putting the total budget on the vote, correct? When it was written, like in Canton, it was written that, do you approve the school budget? Yes or no? There was no amount. Did we talk about that?
The reason that we can't have an amount, Carl, is
Okay.
because by the time you go through the in-person meeting, they can adjust it at that point. So you wouldn't have time to have your ballots ready.
All right, because I got asked
The way it
that.
always
yeah.
goes.
I got asked that, and I said, well, we sent everybody a newspaper, and it had the amount in it. I didn't know if we left it out on purpose, because I think it had an effect that if they don't put it down, I'm not voting for it. So,
Yeah, that is unfortunate, but we really just can't,
okay, yeah,
because we can't print the ballots in time.
gotcha. No, I thought we talked.
needs-
Yeah, I can't remember what we said. Yeah. Okay, I'm out.
All right, thank you.
I think that's.
You all set?
I think
Liz?
so.
All right. Negotiations, nothing. Personnel, Natalie's not here. Ad hoc, we met, no executive session. So could I have a
Make a
motion
motion to
to,
adjourn.
so move second? Oh, I
Second.